please join me in welcoming tonight's guests. We have producers Adam Shulman, Jacob Perlin, Jonathan Lee, and producer star Mahershala Ali.
Let's go!
Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations on a beautiful film. I didn't want to be backstage while it was ending because I was afraid I'd start crying. But whenever I have people as accomplished as all of you, I actually like to go back to the beginning and ask, what was your first job in this business? You know, were you someone who started in the mailroom? Did you go right into producing? Where did it all begin?
Sure, I'll start. I'm Adam Shulman, and I actually had been an attorney. I was working at this fancy law firm on Park Avenue in New York, and wanted to get into the film business, got on the plane, moved down here, and started working for a producer as his assistant, and decided I wanted to be an agent, and started in the mailroom at ETA, and I was delivering mail, and that was back when we had to Xerox the scripts and spent a lot of time doing that, so that's how I started.
You really started in the mailroom?
Yes, after, and I've been admitted to the bar to practice law in California, New York, and Massachusetts, and started in the mail.
That's amazing. Do you remember everyone who was nice to you back then?
I do, yes. Yeah. Those people were really nice. Yeah.
For you?
Oh, I was a intern at Conan O'Brien, and then I was at NBC Page. That was my goal at college, was to be Kenneth from 30 Rock, and now I'm here. So it's been a journey.
I applied for that program when I was in college and did not get it. So, congratulations. She said slightly bitterly.
We both made it though, you know. Our courses got us here, but yeah, no, just always wanted to, work in this business. I just actually never thought I'd be able to do the movie business. That was what I always wanted to. And then as an NBC Page, I got a job at Universal Pictures. And that's how I sort of started my foray into this. And it's been a journey to get here, but it's a pleasure to be here.
That's so cool. For you?
I just realized my first job in the entertainment business was when I was 8. I was in a Mattel toy commercial. My parents had moved from New York to LA, and we lived in the valley next to a guy who directed commercials, and he used to cast my brother and sister and me. And the great thing about it for me was that I learned. I was an inquisitive, annoying child, I'm sure, and I wanted to know what everyone did on set. So by the time I was 10, I knew every job on set, and I also realized that I should leave the acting to people who are actually good at it. But I never lost my love. Eventually worked pretty much doing every job on set until I figured out that I should just pull all those together and be a producer.
We should play that clip.
Yeah, I was literally going to ask if there's video of this online. Mahershala, for you?
My first experiences for...
Yeah, your first job as an actor.
Oh, well, my first job as an actor would be, I got paid under the table to do this project right out of grad school called Pig Music at the time. And that is actually my first lead. You'd never have seen this film.
Sounds like one person has.
But it was an amazing experience, and we shot it in Wisconsin over like 30 days, and we were doing like 20-hour days, and I was so down for it. I was so excited. Like, it was non-union, but like I loved the part, and we were just grinding it out and having a blast. And it was a wonderful introduction into the work, because it wasn't about it being a shiny opportunity. It was just a bunch of I really got a real sense of the tribal nature of filmmaking and how it takes a village to pull it off.
Truly. And we have all guild members here tonight, so I'm sure you didn't work 20 hours a day on Swan Song.
No, this was a whole other thing.
So I'd actually love to start at the beginning with Benjamin Cleary's beautiful, beautiful script. I would just love to know how it found its way to you. Did you know Benjamin? What sort of interested you in coming on board? Let's start with Adam.
Well, Jacob and I got to know Ben, we call him Ben, and he pitched us this idea, and we just fell in love with it. We really fell in love with it, and I remember we walked down to, at the time, our founder and CEO, Steve Golan, started Anonymous Content and said, "You gotta hear this, it's a great idea." And he loved it. Yeah, and then we started working on scripts.
Yeah, I mean, as a credit to the filmmaker, to Ben, who's really just such a thoughtful director and a writer, but he spent, with writers, they often want to get things out quickly and just, figure it out, and he spent several years working on the script, right? And it just, we would be like, sometimes he would be like, it's time to go out. He's like, nope, I still want to work on it. And to see that level of a creative put that love and passion and read it so many times, it gets you inspired as a producer. And so this one has been a really special journey. And then again, I think, timing has led us all here. And when this being one of Apple Plus's first movies, like they were just at that right place at the right time, and they were looking for something, they were looking to figure out what was that, and for us to help create that identity and be a part of it and work together has just been, like kismet, just really, really good time.
So there wasn't even a script when you two joined up?
No.
Started with an idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, this is not a movie that lends itself to a short elevator pitch. What did he sort of say to you?
Well,
You would maybe raise your mic a little.
Oh, sure. It's possible to pitch this in maybe not 1 minute, but in a couple of minutes. And but we talk more about the story, and the tricky thing about it, and we were still dealing with this in post. I mean, Mahershala and John can talk about this as well. But how to order the scenes and which flashbacks to have, which memories to have, where to have them, which memories not to have. And that was really the tricky thing. And as Ben was writing it, he kept shuffling things around, and that's what we there were times when we would say, don't change anything, or don't change the second, just leave it the same. But he would keep moving things around, and we continued to do that.
And I have to give Adam a lot of credit in the scripting phase, because it's so easy with this kind of a movie to get hung up in the some of the minutia or the science or the thing, and Adam always had that mantra of just like focus on the love story, focus on the characters, focus on the people, and that is so freeing. I think for a creative, and then you see that, and you see what Mahershala can bring to it, and you were like, that was a really great call, right? Like, you don't know it in the moment, but there's just a lot of trust that goes into that, and a lot of just, you want to explain everything in every piece, and I think the restraint in this movie started on the page and started in the collaboration, and then to really watch it grow organically, it's just a really magical process. And again, like truly the word magical in the sense that everyone really comes together and brings something. And obviously when, because we all joined at various stages, but, everyone here like had such an impact, right? Or like you just, when Jonathan would read it, he'd be like, this needs to be moved here. You're like, yes, it does, right? Like you're like, that was, so it's just like, that collaboration was really organic, and I think it exceeded our expectations in that regard.
And the movie's done now, right? He's not still shuffling things around.
He is. He's not here because if you know that.
I know how directors are. That doesn't surprise me. Jonathan, what about for you? Was there already a script in place when you came on board?
Yes, there was. My involvement in it was like really serendipitous, literally running into Mahershala on the street in New York. I mean, we were friends and we'd worked together in the past, and I had just come back from France doing this movie Stillwater, which was out earlier in the year. And we were both in New York in December, and we literally ran into each other on the street and said, hey, let's take a walk. And we went walking and goes, what are you doing? And he told me about this movie. I was like, that sounds amazing. And I knew Ben's short, stutterer, and so I was a fan of his, and these guys were looking for another member of their team. I, produced a bunch of movies in Canada, and so, but because of the timing of when it was going to start, I'd just been away for 6 months. I had to stay home, so I said, let me just see if I can help out, but you should find someone else to add to the team. And then it pushed, and then he called me in December and said, I think we're gonna go, how about now? I was like, now's great. So then I went up to Vancouver, and we all lived there for 6 months.
Wow.
It was moving.
That was very convenient that they pushed for you.
It was. Some interesting production things happen out of it. Like when going to Canada, you needed a special essential worker visa, and there was a 2-week quarantine. Like you could not leave your apartment or house, wherever you were living. So for those 2 weeks, every morning I read the script. And instead of going, there's a scene that's not in the movie anymore, but the doctor's office scene, and the pre-production schedule was like scouting, 17 dentists' office, and I was like, that is something I so do not want to do. But, if you're not in quarantine, you go on that anyway, because that's what you do. You sort of get into this automatic, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But every morning I would, like Jake said, I would just read the script through, and something new would come out. At the end of the day, Ben would call me, be like, what'd you find today?
Wow.
So that, the quarantine period for me actually was really interesting and rewarding in a way that I want to try and internalize and use in the future too.
I totally
You don't have to do everything. I don't need to see 17 doctor's office maybe. It's why also this movie is deceptively simple. Minimalism is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So having a team of people and dividing responsibility, as everybody here knows who's a producer, it can be really helpful.
Mahershala, for you, did this come to you first as an actor, or was it a package deal from the start?
It was basically presented as a package deal from the start, which felt like a fit in this case because I think the work with the part, it just in reading it clearly requires a certain degree of intimacy between the actor and the director, and therefore filmmakers. And so just in some of the conversations that we just started having very early on, I was appreciative of how open Ben was, and it was clear to me that it was going to be an experience, situation, an opportunity where there was going to be a free flow of ideas. And it came to me sort of both at the same time, but it felt very organic, very natural, because anybody who knows me, I can't really bite my tongue, and if I have an idea, I'm going to express the idea. And if the ideas start impacting certain things, then at least at this point, it's nice to be embraced and credited in that way.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I believe, the first narrative feature film for your production company?
Yes.
Oh, wow. And your first leading role aside from pig music, was it?
Yes.
Want to share that
Yes.
I want to see this. Are you sure someone doesn't have it somewhere?
No one has it. No one has it. I got some clips somewhere of it. I actually used clips from that film to get to some offices early on.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it paid off.
Yeah, it did. It really did.
Okay.
It really did.
I do want to ask though, because I know Benjamin, I'm sorry, it's Benjamin to me, this is his feature film directorial debut, which is so shocking to me because it's so accomplished. He did win an Academy Award for his short film, Stutterer, and has made quite a few great short films. But, was there any concern about working with a first-time director, not only as an actor, but a producer?
Yes.
Thank you for honesty.
Yes, 100%. Because I didn't know Ben, you know, and I've worked on enough things just to know that there are certain patterns or things that emerge from just working with people who haven't had to manage that. Like, directing is hard. Like, it is hard work, you know, and so, but Ben handled it all masterfully. Like, he really did. He was great to work with in real time and so collaborative, great ideas, also knows when to give you space, which is really important as well, and has a real sense of when to come in, and always enters a space, gives you feedback with real graciousness. But he's a terrific director, but I definitely had reservations going into it, you know. But Stutterer, I thought was so well done, and the way in which Ben articulated his vision. And I also got a real sense of his heart, because there's so much heart and warmth in the film that getting to sit down with him, there was alignment there, you know. And so I just felt confident about everything moving forward.
Is there there's probably not like one specific thing, but is there anything you would recommend asking a director before you work with them? That, you know, just to make sure you're on the same page, or maybe it's just a conversation, get to know them.
You know what? I don't know what I would ask them, but I know what concerns me a lot of times is you kind of want to get a sense, and I think if you just listen, you begin to get a sense of what a director prioritizes. You know, so there's people who are editors turned directors, or DPs turned directors, or whatever. And so there's certain things that a DP is naturally, they get very caught in the beauty of the shot, right? And may lose track of the story or the acting in a certain way because they're looking at the composition of it, you know, and everything else is sort of set deck. It's sort of being harsh, but you just want to get a sense of where the story is sort of going to be told from, and what is it that they actually connect to in the story? What is it that they're going to be focusing on? And that, I think, for me, there's a way in which I can kind of interpret certain things that a director is saying that give you some kind of idea as far as like who they are as a filmmaker and the type of things that they hold to be important.
And Adam and Jacob, you've been talking to Benjamin for some time, so you had a pretty good feeling about what it would be like working together?
Well, we found out very early on that Ben is an over-preparer. I mean, just from the minute we got into business with Apple, he was every aspect of pre-production, even though, we were months and months and months away, he was definitely, bearing down on getting things done and hiring the right crew. But he spent, we got shut down during the pandemic. We were, weeks away from starting, and that actually allowed him to prepare even more. Which in retrospect, I think, we probably all agree that ended up being really helpful. But he storyboarded every single, every shot was well prepared in advance.
Yeah. No, it's just like, it's you look back at it all, and it's just, again, obviously it was so challenging to make this film during the pandemic, but there was such silver linings, right? I mean, we just, there was a lot of stuff that was not fully baked and not figured out, and to give it the time and the patience. I think it's such an amazing opportunity for filmmakers, and as a producing team, just having that opportunity to like really, and again, I think for getting to work with Jonathan and Mahershala we had time, right? Like this film was, you're always like hitting a new starting point. And I just felt like, you know, when we all got involved at these various stages, like everyone got to bring something so specific to it, and actually, you know, you think you have something, you think you know what it is, and there's so many layers to it. So when you bring in these voices and these support systems, I mean, obviously Mahershala is so brilliant in the movie as an actor, but as a producer, the amount of support that he gave the filmmaker, because it was, we're in a pandemic, like we couldn't be all around the, you know, right behind the director. We'd be in separate spaces, and like, you know, for Mahershala to have to wear two roles in terms of this, two performances and the producer hat on set, it was like, I feel like Jonathan, Adam, and I would be like, how do you, I don't know how you do that, right? Like, it was constantly an amazement, and I think just having that on the floor presence with something that, again, is so contained, the way this film is, was just, you know, we would often say, actually, Mimi, our producing partner who's not here, would say there's pixie dust. It just felt like we were having this luck that we got to do this. You know, you're constantly sort of pitching yourself and then, you know, figuring it out as you go.
I mean, Mahershala, how did you balance all those roles? I mean, literal roles on the film, but also as a producer. Were you still producing when you were acting, or did you try to get everything out of the way, which I don't think you can actually do in a film?
Yeah, I mean, you just do one thing at a time. And I mean that. That's all you can do. You can do one thing at a time. So, like, maybe you're in a scene working on something, but then you may need to have a conversation with Ben or any of the other folks about something for later on in the day, or just have to give some feedback on something real quick. But the best way I can put it is, I don't think I'm a great multitasker, but I'm good at doing one thing at a time with all my focus, and I put that thing down and I go focus on the other thing. That's the best way I can put it.
I would say that you also always have the big picture in mind.
Yes.
And one thing, you mentioned priorities, and I think all producers here know, like, one thing you have to do is help your director prioritize. And I think Ben, at the end of the shoot, was much better at that than at the beginning. And I think a lot of that was your encouragement, gentle, loving, supportive, but strong encouragement to him, because he was so prepared. And I can give you confidence at the beginning, but at the same time, like, you really helped him, I think, learn what to let go of, what is important, in a very supportive way. And I think I was amazed that you were playing both of those roles, which were so distinct, and then also always keeping the big picture in mind. So, yeah, it's remarkable.
Thank you.
I would actually love to talk about the cast of this amazing movie. I'm guessing Mahershala was cast first, and it all sort of came from there?
Naomie and Glenn Awkwafina and he's someone who's just so special, Dax Ray, his son. I could never say enough about that young man. And look, we have a whole other movie on the cutting room floor, as a lot of filmmakers do, but I wish you could have seen more of what that young man gave to the film that just couldn't make it in it. But just some wonderfully, obviously, super talented people. But he for me, he really touched my heart getting to work with him. He was such a special kid.
But also, you had such an incredible relationship with him, Mahershala, and I think, I mean, the bond was there on the screen, but it was also off screen too. I remember one time, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something about someone being pregnant, and he had a question, like, I can't remember exactly what the question was, but it's like, you know, something about having babies or how someone gets pregnant.
He's like, "That's your dad over there."
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. I just pretend to be that.
Who had the brilliant idea to cast Awkwafina? I think she's so wonderful.
I think it was Vicky Thomas, our casting director, who I'm glad you mentioned or brought that up, because she's such a wonderful casting director, and they're so great at, like a director may have, as you all know, may have an idea too for certain people, but then there's like the way things have to be filled out and how someone has to be so conscious of chemistry and vibe and tone. Does this family fit together right? The nuances with them casting a black family and shades and all this stuff that people know when it's wrong, but you don't talk about when it's right, you know. But Vicky Thomas is just, you know, a legend. So great guy.
It's true.
You're making a sci-fi movie, which generally translates to a huge budget. I know you did not have a huge budget, and yet you have, you know, it's set in the near future. It's just like, I love that. I don't like distant future movies. I love ones that are just feel like a few years away we'll have those cars, you know? And the quality of the production design, the costuming, everything looks so fantastic. How did you go about achieving that on, you know, a limited budget?
Does anyone want to rave about Annie? Oh, take it over.
I mean, Annie Beecham, our production designer, who's lives in Australia but graciously came up to Vancouver to design it, is just a genius. And she and Ben had a really interesting collaboration because I, like you, I appreciate the near future movies, and it, you know, Ben, I think it was really evident on the page too from the very beginning that the you know, technological advances are either revolutionary or evolutionary, and in a movie like this, you can sort of get away with one revolutionary idea, and then everything else, you have to be really careful not to lose the connection to reality and their evolutions. And their conversations about all of that, you just sort of operating at a really high level, both of them talking, and then Annie would execute it too, were really, really interesting.
That's actually brilliant. I'm going to remember that. You can basically do one kind of crazy thing, and then I'm just going to repeat back what you just said to me, so that I lock it in here. Kind of a broad question, but in general, what do you think a producer's job is on a set? You know, are you there to support the director? Are you there to make sure the trains run on time? Is it a little bit of everything?
I would, from you, I would just say real quick, I think your job is to protect the story. I think throughout the process. So in development, like as Adam and Jacob were speaking about, like in having conversations with Ben and working out story things that you have to be in service of the story, right? All the way up into some truncated version of what we call a trailer. You're going like, how is this hurting or helping the story? Is it helping to tell the story? So one thing that at least stands out to me is it being service of and protecting the story throughout, and all the things that, the decisions that are made that are going to impact you successfully telling the story in the fullest way.
Are you sure you're a first-time producer?
100%.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, it's like there's a lot, I mean, it really takes a team, because there are macro pieces to it and there are micro pieces. And, you know, the day-to-day, making sure that everything gets to the church on time is just, there's so much that goes into it, and making sure, I mean, again, for everyone in this room, it's like, these things aren't accidents, right? Actually, our line producer is phenomenal. Person named Shay Cameron, right? He said, you know, luck is the residue of design. And I think that's so true, which is like, this often felt like luck, but it was design. And it started with our director, and then having Mahershala and having this team put together. And, you know, another phenomenal producing partner in Rebecca Burke, who, you know, would just, you know, making sure that everything was organized and seamless, and people thought that they were cared for. Like, you know, it's just everyone really came together to fill a different role, and, you know, there's a lot of compromise, right? I mean, that's just the nature of producing, is that you can't have everything, and we didn't have everything, but we got a lot. So we tried to, you know, lean into the opportunities that we have, and like use our experiences, right? Like I have a lot of kids, and we were shooting that scene with
One wife, though.
one wife. Thank you for that. But it was like we're sitting there, and we were in our video village, which was always makeshift, and there's the scene in the that you get the flashback to of the birth of Corey, and we were sitting in this room. We were supposed to shoot it in another location, which was like a warehouse, and I was like, remember looking at Jonathan, and I was like, I've been in a doctor's office. I've been in a labor room that looks like this. Like, we should shoot this here, right? Like, we don't need to shoot it in a warehouse. And you have those moments where you're like, let's do that. And legitimately, like, that next day, you're there and we're shooting it. And I'm like, this was much better than a warehouse that's a lot of brick and all that. Those are those moments where you just bring your piece to it, right? And it was just because you had an instinct, or you see it, or you find it. And it's just a bunch of little things like that come in to make the big picture happen. And then just trying to get as much as you can from your studio. But again, we have a terrific partner in Apple. I mean, they really just were so supportive, right? In the sense that it takes so much faith to make this movie. I remember one of our first meetings, we were like, we're gonna make mistakes, it's gonna be hard, and they didn't bat an eye because they believed in the material and the people involved. And so that's also a huge part, like having a support system in that is, this is not an easy thing to put together. And so having that from every angle makes it possible.
Apple was incredibly supportive from the beginning all the way through. So.
Yeah. And I would say one way in which they were incredibly supportive, I think one of the things that the last year and a half has reminded us that really our most important job is to create a safe set. And making a movie during COVID is hard and it takes more time. And like we joked about working 20 hours a day, but no one wants to do that. No one wants to do that. We understand, some financiers will put pressure on you as producers, and it's a real tough battle to fight. Apple was never like that. And making a movie during pandemic reminded us every single day that that's our most important job. And then, the tragedy in Mexico, we have to remember every day, the most important thing is for every person on the crew to create a safe environment. It has to start from the top, and you need a great partner, and our partner was really supportive of that idea.
It's such a beautiful movie, and the cool thing is, I believe it launches on Apple TV Plus this weekend, so you can watch it again and again. But I'm so jealous you got to see it on a big screen, because it does look so beautiful here. I want to thank you so much for being a great audience. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.